through the work that I've done, you realize all around the world this is happening, and in every continent on Earth, Indigenous people have been marginalized, have been pushed aside, they've been murdered.
So Leo, I know I was thinking about as I was watching the movie. I know climate change is something that's like so close to your heart, and I was wondering if you made a connection as you were making this movie between the way people treat the planet and the way that the Osage people were treated and the atrocities committed to them 100 years ago.
I've said this quote many, many times, but it's the truth. The places that are rich in the most natural resources are those places that are often most drenched in blood. And this story was not only surprising to hear, but through the work that I've done, you realize all around the world this is happening. And in every continent on Earth, Indigenous people have been marginalized, been pushed aside, they've been murdered. And a lot of the work that my foundation has done is, look, climate change is one of the most daunting issues that humanity has ever had to take on. But the opportunity that we have by focusing on Indigenous communities who are the stewards of the land and protecting our natural resources relates to the climate issue. I mean, we're waiting for, people to pull carbon out of the atmosphere. We're waiting for everyone to drive an electric car. We're waiting for the private sector out there to do right and not put pressure on, the public to make these transitions. We want it to be automatically integrated into our daily life. And we're waiting for the powers that be to make massive shifts. But in the meantime, supporting grassroots Indigenous communities who are on the front lines, who know how to protect their lands, that's the best effort we can all give if we want to participate in philanthropy and protecting the environment. That's the best thing we could do.
And it's been more than 20 years now since Gangs of New York came out. I was curious, all these films and years later that you and Scorsese have worked together on how kind of your dynamic has changed, over that time.
I think that, look, every time you work with Mr. Scorsese, you get an insane education about cinema and cinema history, but not only that, what it is as an art form. He really opened my eyes to it being the seminal art form of our time. His appreciation and his love of movies is within his DNA. You cannot talk to him about anything without it relating to movie history. But his process, his ability to tell stories and sort of trim away the fat and get to the heart of the human condition is really, besides all his mastery with the camera work and music and all the different facets that come with his filmmaking, his ability to have you connect as an audience member emotionally with characters is really his mastery. And that's his testament to really collaborating and listening to the people that he works with. And that sometimes means changing the entire plot. It sometimes means throwing out a screenplay and getting to the heart of the story he wants to tell. That's what every actor will talk about when they mention working with him, his tremendous respect for the actors that he works with and how much he listens.
Well, and kind of along those lines, I'm curious, Ernest was obviously culpable in a lot of the story, but also complicated and sympathetic in some ways. Mm-hmm. Why was that something that was important for you guys as you told this story?
Because it's look, two things can coexist simultaneously and they can both be true. Mm-hmm. He can absolutely be in love with this woman and systematically helping to have her entire family disappear, and be culpable in that. And there was this story, this love story was really, you call it the sort of great transformation of the great rewrite. It was a completely different story at one point. And this story, this dynamic was a real footnote in the original screenplay. But as twisted and complex as it was fascinating. And it got us into the heart of telling the story more through the Osage perspective and getting to the truth of what actually happened. So what can I say other than we did our best to try to tell the truth? That was our role. That was our responsibility in making this movie, is really try to sit and listen.
Kind of lends itself to that analogy about, we're human beings on a planet that, in many indigenous worldviews, Earth is mother, Earth is a woman. We're in Osage County, we're in Osage country on Indian land that is oil rich. And those two truths can exist. We can love our Earth and extract everything from her at the same time. So I feel like that love is, we're all a little complicit in some kind of a dynamic that way if we're pulling out far enough in the analogy that we're looking at this love story through.